There's a drug in your drink, the janitor warned moments later. The billionaire exposed a lie. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Imagine this. You're at a grand event, surrounded by luxury, but in the middle of all the glamour, a janitor warns you about something you never expected. What happens next will not only change your life, but expose a lie you never saw coming. Let's see how one simple act of kindness leads to a billionaire revealing a shocking truth. Back to our main character. Emma Brooks, a young waitress, found herself sitting nervously at a fancy restaurant, feeling out of place. Her second-hand dress clung awkwardly to her frame, and her shoes, scuffed and worn, were a stark contrast to the polished elegance of the venue. The soft hum of conversation surrounded her, blending with the clinking of silverware as the warmth of the restaurant's ambient light softened the sharp contrast between her modest appearance and the wealth around her. Her heart pounded as she scanned the room, her fingers fidgeting with the napkin in her lap. "Table 7, she whispered to herself, trying to calm the nerves that threatened to overwhelm her. She wasn't used to these kinds of places, not in the least. She was here because of a promise made to her best friend Jenny, who had insisted that she go through with this blind date. But what did she really know about dating someone with money? About the kind of life she could never afford? As she looked around the room, she spotted him. A sharply dressed man, his dark hair styled neatly, sitting alone at a table near the back of the room. He seemed absorbed in his phone, completely unaware of the world around him. That's got to be him, she thought, her heart racing. Taking a deep breath, she walked over, trying to appear confident, even though her palms were sweaty and her mind was a blur. "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. The man looked up, startled, blinking at her in confusion. Hi, Emma," he stammered, clearly caught off guard. Emma mistook his confusion for shyness and slid into the seat across from him, trying to ease the awkwardness with a nervous laugh. "Oh, I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man Liam Parker opened his mouth to say something, but hesitated. He had just received a message canceling an important meeting. Something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. She wasn't like the polished women he was used to, the socialites he usually interacted with. No, there was something refreshingly genuine about her. He decided to play along, offering a faint smile. "Right, blind dates are something else." Emma laughed nervously, taking a sip of water. "Tell me about it. Jenny's been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy with work, you know." Liam, despite himself, became curious. "What do you do?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. "I'm a waitress," Emma admitted, her eyes briefly dropping to her lap. "Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway. Enough about me. What about you? What do you do?" she asked, eager to change the subject. Liam hesitated, giving a vague answer. "I work in tech." Emma perked up, her curiosity piqued. "Tech? That's cool. Like coding and apps and stuff?" Liam smiled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "Something like that," he replied, leaning back in his chair. Despite the oddness of the situation, the conversation began to flow naturally. They exchanged stories about their lives, and Emma found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. She told Liam about her struggles working at the diner, her dream of one day opening an art studio, and how difficult it was to make ends meet. The more she talked, the more she felt comfortable. She looked at him, her curiosity growing. "You're not what I expected," she said, her tone thoughtful. "Jenny said you were quiet, but you're easy to talk to." Liam chuckled softly. "You're easy to talk to, too." Just as Emma was about to ask him more about his work, her phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen and her stomach sank. "Hey, Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Her face turned red with embarrassment as she looked up at Liam. "Oh my God," she whispered, barely able to get the words out. "You're not Kevin, are you?" Liam's smile faltered, guilt flickering in his eyes. "No, I'm not." Emma's stomach churned with mortification. She stood up quickly, grabbing her coat. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." Liam stood up too, reaching out a hand. "Wait," he called after her. But she was already rushing for the door, her face flaming with embarrassment. Liam watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. He had meant to correct her right away, but now, for reasons he couldn't explain, he found himself wondering if he would ever see her again, and why, for some strange reason, the thought of never seeing her again bothered him so much. The night was cold, the city lights outside flickering as Emma sat in her tiny apartment, staring at her phone. Her heart was still racing from the awkward blind date mix-up earlier that evening. She had left the restaurant feeling embarrassed, her face still burning with the memory of running out without even saying goodbye. But a small part of her couldn't stop thinking about Liam, his calm demeanor, his easy smile, and the way he had made her feel like she belonged. Even for a brief moment. It was silly, really. She had made a fool of herself, but something about him lingered in her mind. Maybe it was just her nerves, or maybe it was the way he seemed so different from the usual crowd she dealt with. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she hadn't seen the last of him. Her phone buzzed, snapping her back to reality. She picked it up hesitantly. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi Emma, it's Liam. I was the guy you sat with at the restaurant earlier. I know things were a little awkward, but I'd like to make it up to you. How about we grab a coffee sometime?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe it. Was he really reaching out after all that had happened? She stared at the message for a moment, her fingers hovering over the screen. She had promised herself that she wouldn't get her hopes up. She wasn't the kind of girl who got swept away by charming strangers, especially ones who probably had everything in the world at their fingertips. But there was something about his message sincere, not pushy, that made her think maybe, just maybe, he was different. After a few seconds of hesitation, she typed back, "Coffee sounds nice." She hit send and immediately regretted it. What was she doing? Her phone buzzed again, and she quickly checked it. Liam had replied almost instantly. "Great. How about tomorrow at 2 p.m., at that little cafe on 5th and Main?" Emma smiled at the spontaneity of it. Tomorrow, then. It was just coffee, nothing more. The next afternoon, Emma arrived at the cafe a few minutes early. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she didn't want to be late. The cafe was small but charming, tucked away from the hustle and bustle of the busy city streets. It had an intimate, cozy vibe with a few tables scattered near the window and soft jazz music playing in the background. She spotted Liam immediately as he walked in. He was casually dressed in a gray sweater and jeans, his hair slightly tousled in a way that made him look more approachable than the polished man she had met the night before. He looked up and caught her gaze, and a small smile spread across his face. "Hi, Emma," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "Thanks for meeting me." She smiled back, trying to calm her nerves. "No problem," she said, standing to greet him. They exchanged pleasantries and sat down, each of them slightly awkward, but comfortable enough in the quiet hum of the cafe. The conversation started slow at first, but gradually it began to flow naturally. They talked about everything and nothing: how she worked as a waitress to support her dream of becoming an artist, and how he worked in tech, though he kept his job description vague, which Emma found intriguing. He asked her about her family, and she told him about her mom, who was struggling with her health, and her dream of opening an art studio one day. As they talked, Emma found herself feeling more at ease, less self-conscious about her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes. There was something about Liam that made her feel like she didn't have to pretend to be someone else. He wasn't judging her, not in the way she had expected people like him would. Just when she thought the conversation couldn't get any more comfortable, she heard Liam's voice again, his tone a little more serious. "I have to admit something," he said, his eyes locking with hers. "I didn't tell you the whole truth last night." Emma frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" "I'm not exactly a tech guy," he said, running a hand through his hair, looking slightly embarrassed. "I mean, I work in tech, but that's not all I do. I'm actually, well, let's just say I'm more involved with a company that you've probably heard of." Emma's curiosity piqued. "What kind of company?" Liam paused for a moment, looking like he was deciding how much to reveal. Finally he spoke. "I'm Liam Parker, the CEO of Parker Enterprises." Emma blinked, her mind struggling to process what he had just said. CEO? Of one of the biggest tech companies in the city? It was hard to believe. She had spent the last hour talking to him, thinking he was just some guy who happened to sit at the wrong table. But now, hearing his confession, everything seemed to change. She didn't know how to respond. "Wait," she said, trying to make sense of it all. "You're a billionaire?" Liam gave a half laugh, his eyes twinkling. "I guess you could say that. I just didn't want to come off as one of those people who flaunts their wealth. I didn't want you to think that's why I wanted to talk to you." Emma felt a strange mix of disbelief and confusion. How had she ended up in this situation? "I didn't know," she said softly, feeling a bit overwhelmed. "I had no idea." Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression a little more serious now. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I really enjoyed our conversation last night. I didn't want it to be about money or status. I just wanted to get to know you." Emma took a deep breath, still processing everything. She wasn't sure what to think or how to feel, but one thing was certain: this wasn't the blind date she had imagined. It had gone from an embarrassing mistake to something much more complicated. But despite her confusion, part of her couldn't help but be curious about him. There was something genuine in his eyes, something that made her think he wasn't just another wealthy businessman playing games. For the first time she smiled, a little nervous but willing to see where this could go. "Well," she said, glancing down at her coffee cup, "I guess we can start over. No more lies." Liam grinned, and for a moment, everything felt a little less awkward, a little more real. "No more lies," he agreed. The following week, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Liam and their conversation at the cafe. She hadn't expected anything like that to happen. After their talk, she'd felt conflicted, unsure of what to make of his sudden confession. He wasn't just some guy, he was Liam Parker, a billionaire tech CEO. She had spent so much of her life keeping her distance from people with money, never really believing they could have anything in common with someone like her. But there was something about Liam that made her reconsider everything. He had been kind, genuine, and honestly, it had been refreshing to talk to someone who didn't see her as just another waitress. Over the next few days, Liam sent her a couple of texts, each one a little more personal than the last. He asked about her art, about her dreams, and even shared a few stories about his own life, though he kept the details of his work life to a minimum. It was clear he was trying to connect with her in a way that didn't revolve around his wealth or status, and that made her feel comfortable. She couldn't help but smile when she read his texts. It was a strange feeling. She hadn't felt this way in a long time, not since before her life had been consumed by work and the struggle to pay bills. One evening, after another long shift at the diner, Emma found a message from Liam. "Hey, I was wondering if you'd be interested in attending an art gala with me this weekend. There's an exhibit that I think you'd love, and I'd really like to go with you." Emma blinked at the screen, the invitation catching her off guard. An art gala? With him? She had never been to one of those before. It felt like a dream. She stared at the message for a long moment, her heart pounding in her chest. She had always dreamed of being part of the art world, of having her own gallery one day. But the idea of attending an event like that with someone like Liam seemed so far out of her league. She hesitated, unsure of what to say. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she couldn't turn this down. It wasn't every day that someone like Liam invited her to something like this, and it felt like an opportunity she couldn't ignore. Taking a deep breath, she replied, "I'd love to go, Liam. Thank you for inviting me." His response was immediate, a simple, "Great. I'll pick you up at 6 on Saturday." The day of the gala, Emma spent hours getting ready, nervous about what to wear, what to say, and how she would fit in. She didn't have the fancy clothes that most people at an event like this would wear, but she did her best with what she had. She chose a simple but elegant dress and did her hair the best she could. When Liam arrived at her apartment to pick her up, she felt a little out of place. His car was sleek, polished, and the kind of car she only ever saw in movies. He was dressed in a suit, looking every bit the part of a billionaire CEO. When he saw her, he smiled warmly, clearly not at all fazed by her appearance. "You look beautiful, Emma," he said, his eyes sincere. Emma's cheeks flushed, and she thanked him quietly, trying not to let her nerves get the best of her. As they drove to the gala, Liam kept the conversation light and easy, talking about his company and his latest projects. But he was careful to avoid anything that might make her uncomfortable. He genuinely seemed interested in her, asking about her art and her dreams of opening her own studio. When they arrived at the venue, Emma couldn't believe her eyes. The building was grand, with marble floors and chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds. It was nothing like anything she had ever experienced. The guests were dressed in extravagant gowns and tuxedos, their laughter and conversation filling the air like music. Emma felt like she had stepped into another world entirely, one that was so different from her own. But Liam was by her side, making her feel at ease, as if she belonged there just as much as anyone else. The night unfolded like a dream. Liam introduced her to a few people, all of them friendly, and no one seemed to treat her any differently because of her background. The art on display was incredible, each piece more beautiful than the last. Emma couldn't stop herself from admiring the work, feeling a spark of inspiration that she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time in ages, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the night wore on, Emma and Liam found a quiet corner to talk. She couldn't help but marvel at the way he was able to navigate this world so effortlessly, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude that he had invited her. "I never imagined I'd be here," she said softly, her eyes scanning the room. "This place, this world, it's so different from mine." Liam smiled, his eyes warm and understanding. "I know what you mean," he said. "But I think people like us, the ones who work hard for what we want, we belong in this world just as much as anyone else. You have a gift, Emma. I can see it in your eyes. One day your art will be displayed just like this." Emma's heart skipped a beat at his words. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear that until now. Liam's belief in her gave her the courage to dream again, to believe that she could make something of herself beyond her struggles. For the first time, she felt like she could really make it, no matter where she came from. The night ended with a toast to the artists, and as the event came to a close, Liam turned to her. "I'm really glad you came, Emma," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I've enjoyed spending time with you. I hope this isn't the last time we do this." Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Me too, Liam, me too." The following weeks passed in a blur of late shifts at the diner and long, thoughtful conversations with Liam. Emma couldn't deny it any longer, she was falling for him. Every time they met, whether it was over a simple coffee or a late-night dinner, she found herself getting more and more drawn to his warmth, his kindness, and the way he truly seemed to care about her. He had a way of making her feel seen, heard, and valued in a way that no one else had ever done before. She'd never felt this way with anyone, let alone a man like him, someone with so much power and wealth. But Liam was different. He wasn't like the other men she had met. He didn't talk down to her, didn't act like her background was something to be ashamed of. It was almost as if he genuinely enjoyed spending time with her, just for who she was. One afternoon, after an especially long shift, Emma checked her phone to find a message from Liam. "Hey, I was thinking about our last conversation, and I'd really like to show you something. How about dinner tonight at 7? I promise it'll be a night to remember." Emma's heart skipped a beat. A night to remember? What was he planning? She wasn't sure, but curiosity got the better of her. "Sounds great! I'll be there," she typed back, hitting send before her nerves could get the best of her. Later that evening, Emma stood in front of her wardrobe, staring at the options she had, her few dresses and outfits that she'd carefully picked out over the years. She had never really been someone who wore extravagant clothing, but tonight felt different. This wasn't just another dinner, this was something special. After a moment of hesitation, she chose a simple but elegant dress, one that made her feel confident but still true to herself. When she arrived at the restaurant, she was immediately struck by how different it was from the places she normally went. The lighting was soft and intimate, the tables adorned with fresh flowers, and the air was filled with the scent of expensive wine and gourmet food. It wasn't the kind of place she usually felt comfortable in, but tonight she was with Liam, and that made everything feel different. Liam was already there, waiting for her at a corner table. As she walked up, he stood to greet her with that signature smile of his. "You look amazing, Emma," he said, his eyes warm and sincere. Emma's cheeks flushed at the compliment, and she smiled shyly. "Thank you, you clean up pretty well yourself," she said, trying to hide the nerves bubbling up inside her. Liam chuckled softly, pulling out the chair for her. As they sat down, the waiter came to take their orders, and the conversation flowed easily between them. They spoke about everything: her dreams of becoming an artist, his work in tech, the places they'd both like to visit one day. As the evening went on, Emma felt herself growing more comfortable, more at ease in Liam's presence. It was like he had a way of putting her at ease, making her forget about the world outside, and just focus on the moment they were sharing. After their meal, Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression more serious now. "Emma," he began, his voice soft, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about how much we've gotten to know each other over the past few weeks." Emma's heart skipped. She wasn't sure where this was going, but she felt a little knot tighten in her stomach. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam smiled faintly, his eyes locking with hers. "I think you're an incredible woman, Emma," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I admire your passion, your drive, and the way you've made something of yourself despite all the obstacles life has thrown at you." Emma blinked, caught off guard by his words. She wasn't used to compliments like that, especially from someone like Liam. She had always been told she was too much or not enough in one way or another. But here he was, telling her that he admired her for being exactly who she was. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "There's something else I've been thinking about," he said. "I don't want this to just be a fling, Emma. I want more than that. I want to get to know you on a deeper level, to see where this could go. But I need to know, are you willing to take that chance with me?" Emma's breath caught in her throat. The room seemed to grow quiet around her as she processed his words. Was she really ready for something like this? She had always been cautious, never willing to put her heart on the line. But with Liam, something felt different. There was an honesty about him, a vulnerability that made her feel like she could trust him. She looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity in them, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could take a leap of faith. "Yes," she said softly, her voice steady. "I'm willing to take that chance." Liam's smile widened, and he leaned forward, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, his voice full of warmth, "because I think we could have something really special." As the evening went on, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and hope stirring inside her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was truly seen and understood. She wasn't just the waitress with big dreams. She was someone worthy of love, of trust, of being cherished. And for the first time, she was willing to believe that maybe, just maybe, her dreams were within reach. In the weeks that followed, Emma found herself settling into a rhythm she never thought was possible. The diner shifts were still long and exhausting, but something had changed. She had a new lightness in her step, a warmth in her chest that wasn't there before. Liam had kept his word. He didn't just disappear after their night together at the gala. They continued to talk, to share their lives, their fears, and their dreams. He had become someone she could rely on, someone she genuinely enjoyed spending time with. But as much as she cherished their moments together, there was always a part of her that hesitated. Was she really ready to enter his world? The world of wealth, of power, of things she couldn't even begin to imagine? He had shown her glimpses of it, but she still wasn't sure if she belonged. She had always been cautious, never fully trusting anyone who could have everything handed to them. Liam, with all his charm and success, seemed like someone who could have anyone he wanted, so why her? She pushed the thought aside, unwilling to let her insecurities ruin what had already become a beautiful connection. One evening, after a particularly tiring day at work, Emma was sitting in her small apartment, looking over some art sketches she had made over the past few months. She was in the middle of trying to perfect a new piece when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "I've got a surprise for you. Meet me at the park in 30 minutes. Emma raised an eyebrow. A surprise? She wasn't sure what to expect, but something in the tone of his message made her smile. She put down her sketches and grabbed her jacket, deciding to meet him. The night air was cool as she walked to the park. It was quiet, the kind of stillness that made everything feel peaceful. When she arrived, she found Liam standing by a fountain, his back turned to her. He was waiting for her, a slight smile playing at the corner of his lips when he heard her footsteps. "You made it," he said, his voice warm. Emma smiled back. "Of course I wouldn't miss it." "Good," he said, turning to face her fully. "I wanted to show you something." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to her. Emma looked at it curiously, taking it from his hands. She opened it carefully, her heart pounding as she unfolded the paper inside. To her surprise, it was an invitation to an art show, her art show. "Liam," she breathed, her eyes wide with disbelief. This is for me?" He nodded, his smile widening. "I've been talking to a few people in the art world, and they agreed to help you get your work displayed. It's your time, Emma. I've seen how much passion you put into your art, and I want to help make your dream a reality." Emma stood there, frozen, the envelope still in her hand. This couldn't be real. It felt like something out of a dream, something she had wished for but never truly believed would happen. "But I'm not ready," she said softly, looking up at him, her voice filled with doubt. "I don't know if I'm good enough." Liam stepped closer, his eyes soft and understanding. "You're more than good enough, Emma. Your talent speaks for itself. All you need to do is believe in yourself." She looked down at the invitation again, her heart racing. This was everything she had wanted, but it was also terrifying. What if she failed? What if no one cared about her work? "But what about us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just a waitress, Liam. I don't belong in your world." Liam's expression softened and he took her hand gently in his. "Emma, you belong in my world. You're not just a waitress to me. You're someone I admire, someone I care about, and I know that no matter where we go from here, we're going to make it together. You don't have to do this alone." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as his words sank in. She had been so focused on her fears, on her insecurities, that she hadn't seen the truth staring her in the face. Liam wasn't just offering her a chance to showcase her art. He was offering her a chance at something bigger, something real. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice shaky. "Say yes," Liam said with a soft smile. "Say yes, and let's make this happen." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she nodded, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. "Yes," she said, her voice strong. "Yes, I'll do it." Liam's smile grew wider, and he pulled her into a gentle embrace. "I knew you would." That night, as they stood there in the quiet park, Emma felt like her life was changing in ways she couldn't fully understand, but she was ready for it, ready to take the next step, to trust in herself, and to trust in Liam. For the first time in a long time, she felt like anything was possible. The following days were a whirlwind for Emma. After saying yes to Liam's offer, everything seemed to move so fast. She had always dreamed of having her art displayed for the world to see, but she never imagined it would happen like this, so suddenly, so unexpectedly. Liam had been right there by her side, every step of the way. He arranged everything for her: the gallery, the invitations, the promotion. He was determined to help her achieve her dream, and Emma couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and fear. Her art was her life, but what if no one liked it? What if this was just a mistake, and she was setting herself up for failure? The self-doubt crept in at every turn. But Liam had a way of easing her worries. He was constantly reassuring her, always there with a smile, a kind word, and a reminder that she was more than capable. "You're going to be amazing, Emma. Just trust yourself," he would say, his voice filled with belief. The night of the gallery opening arrived, and Emma could hardly believe it. She stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment, staring at the dress she had chosen. It wasn't the fanciest dress, but it made her feel confident, like she could finally step into the life she had always wanted. Her hands trembled as she applied the last touches of makeup, her thoughts swirling with nervous energy. She had never done anything like this before. A gallery opening? For her art? It felt like a dream. When she arrived at the venue, she was immediately struck by the elegance of the space. The walls were lined with beautiful pieces of art, and soft lighting highlighted every detail. The air was filled with the hum of conversation as people admired the work, glasses of wine clinking in the background. It was everything she had ever wanted, but it was also overwhelming. She felt a pang of nervousness in her chest. Was she really ready for this? Just as the doubt started to take hold, she felt a familiar hand on her shoulder. Liam. He was standing there, looking at her with a proud smile. "You look incredible," he said, his voice low and sincere. Emma smiled, trying to calm her racing heart. "Thank you. I can't believe this is happening." Liam gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "I knew you could do it. You've worked so hard for this moment, Emma. Don't let the nerves get the best of you." She nodded, taking a deep breath. "I'll try," she said. "It's just so overwhelming." Liam chuckled softly. "I know the feeling. But you've got this." As the night went on, Emma's nerves began to settle. The more people came up to her to admire her art, the more she realized that she belonged here. She wasn't just a waitress with a dream. She was an artist, with her own unique voice, and her work was worthy of being seen by the world. The conversations flowed easily. People were genuinely interested in her process, her inspirations, and her journey. It was the validation she hadn't realized she needed. It was like the years of struggling and doubting herself had all led to this one perfect moment. And through it all, Liam remained by her side, his pride in her evident in the way he looked at her, the way he spoke about her work. As the night wore on, Emma realized that this wasn't just about the art, it was about everything she had overcome to get here. It was about believing in herself, about trusting that she was worthy of the success she had achieved. And it was about Liam, who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. After the gallery closed, Liam turned to her with a grin. "So, what do you think?" he asked, his eyes full of anticipation. Emma smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. "I think I'm ready for the next step," she said, her voice filled with confidence. Liam raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm ready to take the leap. To really go after what I want. With you." Liam's smile grew wider, and for a moment, he didn't say anything. He simply pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her close. "You have no idea how happy that makes me," he whispered. Emma leaned into him, feeling the weight of everything she had overcome and everything she had gained. She had taken the leap. She had trusted herself, and in doing so, she had found not only her passion but also someone who truly cared for her. And with that, she knew that this was only the beginning of her journey, one that she would walk confidently, with Liam by her side. The weeks that followed the gallery opening were nothing short of transformative for Emma. Her artwork had received incredible attention, far more than she ever expected, and the validation was overwhelming. People were now seeing her for what she truly was, an artist, not just a waitress with a dream. Liam continued to support her, not just as a mentor but as someone who genuinely cared for her. They spent more time together, talking about everything and anything, and slowly, Emma started to realize just how much Liam had become a part of her life. But as much as she had begun to feel comfortable in this new world of opportunities and success, there was still a lingering fear inside her, a fear that perhaps she wasn't cut out for this life, that it was all too good to be true. Emma wasn't used to having things handed to her, and the idea that she could have both love and success felt almost impossible. Was she really worthy of this life she was building with Liam? One evening, as she sat in her apartment, staring at the painting she had been working on for weeks, her thoughts drifted back to that moment when everything had changed, when she had said yes to Liam's offer, when she had taken the leap. She had trusted him then, and now she had to trust herself. But as much as she told herself she could do this, there was always that nagging voice in the back of her mind questioning if she truly belonged in his world. Liam noticed her quiet moments, her hesitation, and one afternoon, he decided it was time to address it. He had been planning something special for weeks, something that would bring her out of her shell even more, to show her just how much she meant to him. He picked her up from the diner one evening, and as they drove through the city, Emma could tell something was different. The night air was crisp, and the city lights shimmered through the windshield as Liam glanced over at her. "You've been distant lately," he said gently, his voice full of concern. "Is everything okay?" Emma sighed, glancing out the window for a moment before meeting his gaze. I don't know, Liam. Everything's been moving so fast, and I keep wondering if I'm really meant for this. I'm not like the people you know. I didn't grow up with money. I didn't have the opportunities that others have had. Sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending, like I'm not really part of this world." Liam reached over, placing a hand on hers. "Emma, you don't have to pretend to be someone else. You're perfect just as you are. I believe in you more than you know. You've earned everything you've achieved, and you deserve every bit of it. This world, my world, it's not so different from yours. It's just full of people who want something more, something real, and that's exactly what you have." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest as his words settled in, but still, doubts lingered. She wasn't sure how to let go of them, how to fully believe in herself. They arrived at their destination, a small, quiet park with a beautiful view of the city skyline. Emma had no idea what to expect, but as they stepped out of the car, Liam led her down a path lit by soft lanterns. At the end of the path, there was a small area with a bench and a view of the city that was breathtaking. Liam turned to her, his eyes filled with sincerity. "Emma, I know you've been through a lot, and I know it's hard to believe that things can change. But I want you to know something. This isn't just about art or success. It's about us. It's about what we can build together." He paused for a moment, his voice soft. "I want to be with you, Emma. I want you to know that I'm here for the long haul. I'm not just offering you a dream. I'm offering you my heart. And I want to make this official." With that, Liam dropped down on one knee, holding out a small box. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she realized what was happening. The man she had come to care for deeply, the man who had supported her and believed in her when she didn't believe in herself, was asking her to spend the rest of her life with him. She looked down at the ring, her heart racing. "Liam, are you—" "Yes," he said, smiling. Will you marry me, Emma? Will you let me show you every day how much you mean to me? Emma blinked back tears as she looked at him, overwhelmed by the depth of his love for her. In that moment, everything clicked into place. All the doubts, all the fears, none of them mattered anymore. She had been afraid of not being enough, but now, with Liam by her side, she knew she was more than enough. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking. Yes, I will marry you. Liam stood up, pulling her into his arms as the city lights shimmered around them. In that moment, it wasn't about the wealth, the art, or the life they would build together. It was about love, pure and simple. They had both taken the leap, and now they would walk forward together hand in hand, knowing that no matter what, they were stronger together than apart. The days leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of emotions for Emma. It felt like everything was moving so quickly, but at the same time, everything felt right. She had always dreamed of a life where her art was recognized, where she could be more than just a waitress with big hopes. But never in a million years had she imagined that her journey would lead her here. She was going to marry Liam Parker, a man who had shown her that dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed, were worth fighting for. The wedding preparations were everything she had ever imagined and more. With Liam by her side, it was hard not to get swept up in the excitement. The venue was perfect, a beautiful, intimate garden that was both elegant and understated, with flowers in full bloom and the soft sound of a fountain in the background. Everything was carefully planned, from the seating arrangements to the flowers, and yet there was still a sense of calmness in the air, a feeling of simplicity that Emma had always wanted. Despite the whirlwind, Emma found herself questioning everything once more. She was about to marry a man who could have anyone, and here she was, an ordinary girl who had somehow found herself in this extraordinary world. She couldn't help but ask herself if she truly belonged, if she was the right person for Liam. Liam had been nothing but patient and loving, never once making her feel inadequate, but she still had her doubts. Would he still love her when the excitement of the wedding day was over? Would their life together be everything she imagined, or would she eventually fall short of his expectations? One afternoon, a few days before the wedding, Emma was sitting on a bench in the park, her mind swirling with thoughts of doubt and fear. She loved Liam more than she had ever loved anyone, but what if her past was too much for him to handle? What if her insecurities pushed him away? As these thoughts raced through her mind, she felt a familiar presence behind her. She turned to see Liam standing there, his face full of concern. "Hey," he said softly, sitting down beside her. "I thought I'd find you here." Emma gave him a small smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm just thinking," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "about everything, about us." Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "Emma, I know you've been nervous about all of this, but I need you to know something. None of that matters to me. All I see is you. The woman I want to spend my life with. Not your past, not the struggles you've faced. Just you." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as his words sank in. It was exactly what she needed to hear, but she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the depth of his love. She had never been this vulnerable with anyone before, but with Liam, she felt like she could be. "But what if I'm not enough?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if one day I let you down?" Liam shook his head, a soft smile on his lips. "You've already shown me more than enough, Emma. You've shown me your strength, your heart, your passion. That's all I need." He squeezed her hand gently. "You don't have to be perfect, Emma. You're perfect just as you are." Emma felt the weight of her doubts begin to lift as she looked into Liam's eyes. The love she saw there was unwavering, and for the first time in a long time, she truly believed it. She wasn't just a waitress. She was Emma, an artist, a woman worthy of love and happiness. Liam's love wasn't based on what she could give him. It was based on who she was. That realization hit her like a wave, washing away the remnants of her fear. As they sat there in silence, the weight of everything that had brought them here settled into her heart. She was ready to step into this new life with Liam, ready to face whatever challenges came their way, and ready to embrace the love that had already transformed her world. The wedding day arrived, and as Emma walked down the aisle, her heart felt lighter than it ever had before. Liam stood at the altar, waiting for her with that same warm smile that had always made her feel safe. When she reached him, he took her hand in his touch reassuring and full of love. "You look beautiful," he whispered, his voice full of emotion. Emma smiled, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "So do you," she said softly. In that moment, as they stood together surrounded by their loved ones, Emma knew without a doubt that this was where she was meant to be. With Liam by her side, she could face anything. Together, they would create a life filled with love, laughter, and all the dreams they had once thought impossible. The months that followed their wedding were a whirlwind of change and growth for Emma and Liam. They settled into a new rhythm, balancing their personal lives with the excitement of their careers. Liam's company continued to grow, and Emma's art was now being displayed in galleries across the city. It was everything she had ever wanted and more, but the journey had not been without its challenges. They had faced their share of doubts, but through it all, their love for each other had only deepened. Emma learned to trust not just Liam but herself as well. The fears that once held her back began to fade as she realized she was capable of so much more than she had ever given herself credit for. Liam was always by her side, encouraging her, supporting her, and reminding her of the strength she had within her. One afternoon, as they sat in their cozy living room, surrounded by art pieces Emma had created, Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking," he said softly. "What if we took this further? What if we opened our own gallery? A place where artists like you can have the chance to show their work, just like you did." Emma's eyes widened at the suggestion. It was a dream she hadn't even dared to imagine. Opening a gallery? It seemed like such a big step, such a huge commitment. But the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. She had spent so much of her life doubting herself, hiding in the shadows of other people's success. Now, with Liam's unwavering support, she realized she could do it. "You really think we could?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. Liam smiled and nodded. "I know we can. You've already proven that you have the vision and the passion, and I believe in you." Emma's heart swelled with emotion. The man she loved, the man who had stood by her through everything, was offering her the opportunity of a lifetime. It was a chance to create something that was entirely her own, to make a lasting impact on the art world and the community. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "Let's do it. Let's open the gallery." And so, they did. With Liam's business expertise and Emma's artistic vision, they opened a beautiful gallery in the heart of the city. It became a place where emerging artists could showcase their work, where creativity thrived, and where Emma's own art became a central part of the space. The gallery wasn't just a business, it was a dream realized, a place where Emma could finally see the fruits of her labor, not just as a waitress or an aspiring artist, but as a woman who had the strength to create something meaningful. The opening night of the gallery was a celebration of everything they had accomplished together. Friends, family, and fellow artists filled the space, admiring the work on display and celebrating the vision that Emma and Liam had brought to life. As Emma stood at the front of the room, looking around at the people who had come to support her, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was her moment. She had finally found the place where she belonged, where her dreams were no longer just wishes, they were her reality. Liam stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered, his voice full of pride. Emma smiled, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "We did it," she corrected, turning to face him. They had done it together. It wasn't just about the gallery or the success they had achieved, it was about the love and support they had given each other along the way. They had built a life together, one filled with dreams, challenges, and endless possibilities. Looking around the gallery, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. There was so much more they could do, so many more dreams to chase. But for the first time in her life, she knew that no matter what came next, she was ready. Ready to continue building, ready to take on whatever the future held, and ready to do it all with Liam by her side. As the evening went on, Emma looked out at the people gathered in the gallery, and for the first time in a long time she truly felt at peace. She had found her place, her purpose, and the love that had always eluded her. And she knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one where anything was possible. With Liam, she had everything she had ever wanted and more. And together, they were ready to face the future, hand in hand.